Trustee Villalobos, will you lead the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Trustee Brocchini, will you read the land acknowledgement?
The Pacifica School District acknowledges that we gather on the unceded ancestral homelands of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. As guests, we humbly extend our gratitude to the Ramaytush Ohlone elders and community. We recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. As the original stewards of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of maintaining harmony with nature. Likewise, Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards of this land.
Thank you. Barbara, will you please take roll call?
Yes, Trustee Burdall.
Here.
Trustee Brocchini.
Here.
Trustee Doggett.
Here.
Trustee Patel.
Here.
Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. The district digitally records the audio and video portion of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken for 3 minutes, your microphone will be muted. Okay, we're reporting out on the closed session topics. The board met in closed session regarding this public employee performance evaluation for the superintendent. The board voted 5-0 to approve the performance evaluation. All right. Approval of the minutes, Dr. Olson.
Are there any, there are actually a few sets of minutes. So are there any questions regarding the minutes of December 15th? That was the reorganization meeting. Any questions?
I'll call on everybody. Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
No. Do you have any questions?
Question?
No questions.
Okay. Trustee Villalobos.
No questions.
Trustee Brocchini.
No questions.
And Trustee Patel.
No questions.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 15th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 15th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Barbara, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes, Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
And Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
The next set of minutes are the minutes of January 5th. Are there any questions?
And again, I'll just go around the room. Trustee Patel, do you have any questions? Trustee Budal,
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos,
No questions.
and Trustee Brocchini.
No questions.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 5th?
A motion to approve the minutes from January 5th.
Do I have a second? I'll second the approval motion to approve the minutes of January 5th. And Barbara, will you take the roll call?
Yes, Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
And finally, the last set of minutes are from the January 12th governance session. And so are there any questions regarding the minutes of January 12th?
I'll go around the room again. Trustee Burkini,
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos,
No questions.
Trustee Vidal,
No questions.
Trustee Patel.
One question, just a point of clarification. I saw in the minutes that we were voted for a temporary return. Was there a time frame associated with that temporary return to virtual board meetings, or is it? I didn't see a time frame, but I could have been missing it.
By the law, it's 30 days. And so that is our January 19th and our February 9th board meeting. And then if we choose to continue in a virtual format, we would have to do the same process at the February board meeting. So it's only for 30 days.
Thank you.
Good question.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 12th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 12th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Barbara, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Patel,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the agenda and consent agenda? All right, I'll go around the room. Trustee Patel,
No questions.
Trustee Burdall,
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos,
No questions.
Trustee Burkini.
No questions.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Barbara, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Of course. Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Doggett,
Yes.
sorry, Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Patel,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
All right, speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up for up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken for 3 minutes, your microphone will be muted. All right, first up is LSEA.
I just promoted. Here she is.
Hi,
Hi.
this is easier than zooming into the room. There's no tech. Good evening. Between the months of August and December, our COVID-19 dashboard reflects 46 positive cases. Since the new year, the first 8 days of instruction, there were 128 cases in just 8 days. This is our third school year teaching during a pandemic, and it just doesn't want to let up. It's been hard for the entire Pacifica community. Here's hoping this surge is indeed a surge and there is some relief soon. LSEA is thankful for Carla's work, specifically as she works directly with our members who have been exposed or tested positive. Today, we had our first contract negotiation session and things are starting off well. We came to a tentative agreement on safety conditions of employment, applying what we have already created during the pandemic, which also includes language around air quality and natural disasters. I think it's safe to say the Pacifica School District can be considered one of the first districts to incorporate this language into a collective bargaining agreement. For this, we should all be very proud. We negotiate again in February. Thank you, Trustee Villalobos, for attending our last union meeting. She was able to hear concerns teachers had around COVID protocols and contracted teachers. Our next meeting is February 3rd at 3:30. Please let me know if you would like to attend. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. All right, I'm going to do my best not to kick you out of this whole meeting.
Thank you. CSEA,
Nicole Sayers, promote to panelist. Hi.
Hello, my name is Nicole Sayers, and I am the president of CSEA. I would like to wish you and all of your families a very happy new year. The last week or so has been challenging, but I think we're doing an exceptional job in keeping things running. Administrative staff are teaching in classrooms whenever possible. Teaching staff are taking 2 classes at a time when there are no substitutes. And classified staff are doing their jobs and others that need to be picked up by someone. Together, we are all getting this latest spike in COVID. As I watch the news daily, it makes me very proud to be a part of a district that is willing to step up and do what is necessary to keep the district running for our students and their families. We may not always agree, but it is clear that we need to, I'm sorry. We may not always agree, but it is clear that when we need to do the right things, we do them because we do care about each other, and that is what makes Pacifica School District a special place. On the CSEA front, I want to thank the district for offering our classified employees the CSEA Summer Benefits Program. The program will allow the classified employees who work fewer than 12 months a year and make under $62,400 an opportunity to save a percentage of their wages through a county savings account. Every year, the state will match the SAVE funds dollar for dollar. The legislature approved $60 million in funds to the California Department of Education to fund this program through June 2024. But we certainly hope that it will continue years after that. Negotiations have been going well, and we recently ratified Juneteenth and minimum wage agreements with our members. Currently, we are negotiating COVID-19 agreements. In February, we will sunshine and begin more negotiations. We look forward to negotiations moving smoothly so we can all accomplish what is best for all of us. As far as the Above and Beyond Awards, December was a big month because we honored Yolanda Peranza, Frank T., Mark Clausen, Jerry Kern, Bill Armstrong, Jerry Keller, Dalton McGuire, and Vince Ayala. This month has been busy for everyone, but there will be more honorees to come. As always, I'm happy to help with anything I can, and I look forward to offering more good news at the next board meeting. Thank you for your time.
thank you. Okay. People wishing to address the board. Do we have anyone?
I don't see anybody for the general comment. I do see speakers for item 12D.
Okay. So we can move forward. Let's see. Correspondence. I guess I'll start with Trustee Burkini. Or is that no?
Correspondence is usually Dr. Olson.
Yep.
Yeah.
The correspondence that I receive has been predominantly around fields, and I believe that each of you have received that, and I'm sure it will come up today as we discuss the fields.
Did you want to segue into superintendent communications?
Sure. I have spent a fair amount of time at the schools. Yesterday, I was a 4th grade teacher at Valamar. I've probably spent more than half of my time filling in for unfilled substitute positions. And when I start to talk about COVID, I will give my list of people that I'm grateful for, because our schools are open, our kids are at school, they're doing great, and this has been incredibly stressful on staff. But I'm very, very pleased. So I'll have more to say during my COVID update.
Right. I'm going to go around the room. Trustee Burkini, I'll start with you.
Well, I attended some of the same trainings everyone else attended. We had a closed session on negotiations that went well, and also had equity training last week that was also really well. I attended the county call with Nancy McGee, the superintendent of the county, and she was reassuring that this is a surge. And then the county is going to be moving and shifting over to doing more focus on testing. And I think Superintendent Olson will talk more about that as we come along. And I did get one communication regarding the calendar we're voting on. The feedback was they really appreciated getting out the tests to students before school went back, and possibly making sure that we had another 2 days after the winter break to make sure that that could happen again if needed next year. I did notice we have 1 day already on there, so that may be enough, but that was a comment that I received. So that's it for today.
Thank you. Trustee Villalobos.
It was kind of busy. I met with Dr. Olson for our monthly meeting regarding mostly COVID updates. I attended the Ortega PTO meeting and just wanted to get a gauge on how everybody's doing out there, and we all have the same concerns. I also attended the Ocean Shore PTO meeting, and I attended the LSCA meeting, and our meeting with Nicole Anderson for race and equity has ended. So now we'll just hopefully start applying what we have learned to the district. And I did receive 2 emails regarding the fields. One of them, in favor, and the other one was kind of questioning if we would be able to upkeep all of them. And also the calendar too. And that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Patel.
I also received the email communications that Trustee Villalobos mentioned, and I attended a governor's budget workshop with the School Services of California. I believe they host a workshop, and it was very interesting. The feedback from that meeting was obviously there is a lot more funding coming to education in the new budget. Especially in special education, which I think is very welcome. Some of the challenges with that increase in funding is about 40% of it is one-time funding, not ongoing, and 75% of the funding increases were in categorical funds, so are restricted in many ways. So, good news and challenging news from that workshop. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Burdell.
Okay. I also was in the negotiations meeting and the special board meeting on equity. And the county superintendent call with Nancy McGee, and then the county electeds call with Dr. Morrow and Jackie Spear and so forth. And they're hoping that this is just a surge and therefore there's not another one scheduled. We'll schedule it if we need it, but they're trying to think positive by not putting something on the calendar in the future, that hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll be past this.
Thank you. I also attended the meetings that the board attended, the equity and as well as the negotiation meeting. I've met with Dr. Olson several times, but I did want to share a bit of information with everyone. Every household is eligible to receive 4 free COVID tests. So if you have not heard or you did not know, please Google COVID test in the United States Postal Service, and you can sign up and they will send you 4 free COVID tests to your home. So I just wanted to share that bit of information. And so I guess we can move on to district business, district goals. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan, the LCAP, and our strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our district website at www.pacificasd.org. Okay. School operations and COVID update, Dr. Olson.
Great. Mr. Lucy, would you kindly share the presentation? Perfect. So we will go through this, and then at the end for any discussion, we'll take the presentation down so that we can see the trustees' faces. So I can't believe that we're presenting on COVID again. And in fact, Trustee Villalobos asked for this specifically in December. And she's like, we haven't heard about COVID in a while. And lo and behold, here we are. I had no idea that I'd have quite so much to share with you. So if you'll turn the slides, please, is that we do believe that we're on, there we go. One more. So cases are, as President Ellsburn described, is those cases have kind of blown out of the water. I was shocked when we caught up this weekend to find out that we had 60 cases the first week back and another 60 cases the second week back. So this is the upswing of the roller coaster. I'm pretty certain that this is going to be a close to 50 or 60 case week, but we should be on the downside of this roller coaster very soon. They're saying in other states that they're starting to see that decline. I think in California, it may be another week or two, but that we expect it to be calmer by the end of February. So if you look at the COVID dashboard, is just right around Thanksgiving, we had 4 cases. At the beginning of November, we had 2 0-case weeks. We turned to the next one and recognized that this is 63 and 65 cases, and I was shocked. And then I looked at some of our neighbors and looked at they also are experiencing this huge surge. So I just want to talk about the dashboard for a bit, is that the first week back, we were filling in classrooms and addressing positive cases and keeping our schools safe. So we did fall behind in the dashboard. Through diligence of staff members, we were able to catch up. But just want to clarify, I get asked this question a lot, what goes on the dashboard and what doesn't go on the dashboard, is that if there is a positive case at school where either that staff member or that student has been on campus, potentially exposing another student or staff member, then and it warrants a notification that is a positive case on the dashboard. So for students that maybe were identified from the take-home rapid tests that went home, that were identified before school started, those positive cases, because they don't happen at school or those students haven't been at school, did not make the dashboard. So it's a very narrow window of what is out there, but it is a realistic picture. It is a little bit delayed in the updating of that, and the reason being is that the first thing that we do is that we notify staff, and then the second thing that we do is we notify families. And then when those 2 notifications have been made, then we update the dashboard. So as you can see, we have not made any dashboard updates this week. So we hope to be able to keep up with that. Prior to the holidays, we were able to update it every day. When you have 7 cases, that's very realistic. When you have 63 or 65, we're going to just do our best to keep it as up to date and as accurate as possible. There's a huge trade-off for, timeliness and accurateness versus making sure that our classrooms are safe. And so we always try to make sure that we err on doing the first things first and making the notifications to families and staff right away. So when we think about COVID and where we are is, and I think we would never have guessed that we were here a year ago, as we were returning to school and there was talk about vaccinations and the protection from vaccinations is vaccinations are still very, very important, and we're very thankful for our staff's high level of vaccinations, but people who are vaccinated are being exposed to the Omicron and catching COVID, but they're not getting sick to the same degree as people that are unvaccinated. So that vaccination is still very, very important and going to be one of our highest priorities. But what we have in place now that we didn't have a year ago is all of the safety protocols, the updated protocol that I'll introduce you to today, the pool testing and the rapid testing that was not in place in our early August as we started school. That's a huge move for us. And then we do have a very high level of vaccinated students and staff. And so those protections are in place. I think we were completely expecting vaccinations to be our security shield, and at this point, it's a great buffer. But people are still coming down with COVID that have been vaccinated. Next slide, please. So on January 12th, the California Department of Public Health updated their guidance, and so we have just now been able to transition to our new guidance. So we put this guidance together for December, got it out just before. It was great for the first week back, but then things changed very quickly, and they weren't just little minor tweaks. They were pretty substantial tweaks. So the biggest difference from California Department of Public Health is instead of modified quarantine, which was keeping students in school and modifying their out-of-school behaviors, it's really keeping students at school, whether they're vaccinated or not vaccinated, and continuing to test. That testing piece is going to be important. Instead of individual contact tracing, so when we had, say, perhaps 7 students test positive in the district in a week, we would call and ask who's in your family and were you in any family events, and did people have their masks on? And at this point, we are solely focused on behavior at school and shared airspace. So we're looking at groups, and we're not looking at individuals and individual behavior. So there is not individual contact tracing. I think they've just figured out that in order to keep up with Omicron is like trying to get the big pieces moving. And so these two things will provide a quicker and a broader response, which is important because Omicron is so very, very contagious. We are just a few days ahead of the update of the pandemic recovery framework, which will be a one-stop shop for guidance, but they have not updated according to the CDPH. Next slide, please. So if we think about with Omicron, some precautions at school is deferring non-essential gatherings. We have in this sprint that we've had the last couple of weeks is we've delayed a few things that could have even happened virtually. And that's just because our staff is very busy with dealing with the response to Omicron and keeping schools open. So for example, our district committee on priorities and funding sustainability, we're going to start that in February. Our parcel tax and bond oversight committees, we'll start those in February, and we will definitely hold those virtually. In general, anything that can be held virtually at this point, we will. And the decision to hold the board meeting was deliberated quite carefully, just because the resolution that needed to be made was around the safety of the participants. And we had been meeting in person quite safely. But when it came down to the crunch around keeping schools open, in order to transact business, the board members need to have 3 people that can attend a meeting. And with Omicron and different exposures, there were all sorts of different situations where we would not have had 3 people for a meeting. So we have elected to go virtual for the next 30 days, and that puts us through our February board meeting. We may, at that point, choose to extend it for one more 30 day if we choose to. It's hard to figure out right now what's going to happen in February, but I know that it was the right choice so that we can all talk about matters that matter to this community and do so safely. So, other precautions are a limitation of volunteers, and I want to be really clear that that is on a school site basis, that they are making decisions around which volunteer positions or duties to keep going. My example would be one of my first days that I was subbing at Cabrillo School. We were we had an art class that was taught by a parent volunteer. Doors and windows were open. Parent was both vaccinated and boosted and had on a KN95. Kids were no more at risk as a result of being in that room and had an amazing art lesson that they would not have had in that situation. So we've discussed with principals, and they're making on a case-by-case position if it's something related to curriculum or something that furthers an interest, or if it's a established volunteer position. But what you're not going to see is the bigger events, is so that we want to keep events down to about a class. We don't want to have large gatherings. And so when we say limit volunteers, it's really about not having super large gatherings. We are in the process of collecting a proof of the booster from staff, and that's happening through Informed K-12 in the Human Resources Department. That booster is going to become more and more important. And while we have a very high level of vaccination for our staff, the boosters are lagging just a little bit. And I think part of it is that many people said, oh, I'll get that over the holidays, or I'll get that, just people didn't realize that with Omicron, that was a super important piece of that. And so I encouraged right before we went on vacation, everyone to get that booster. So if you've not yet, it's soon going to be considered an important part of full vaccination. We really want to encourage vaccinations and boosters amongst all eligible populations. So my understanding is that students 12 and above are eligible for the booster, but vaccination matters a ton, and it's one of the reasons why Pacifica does very, very well, is because we have a high level of vaccination. We are tightening up our testing protocols. We were really happy to be able to distribute the take-home tests, but our bread and butter is going to be the weekly pool testing. And we have, in most cases, between 70 and 80% of people are participating in that. It's going to really matter in terms of if there's a positive case and coming back, that testing is going to be very, very important. So we encourage parents to be a part of that. It's this morning at about 10 o'clock, probably 8 people from the district office all walked up to Valimar just to take their test. We were there for less than 5 minutes. And it's amazing as a teacher how not disruptive that is to your classroom, and what a relief it is when you do finally get those, the negative pool is like, okay, at this moment, things are good. And then just the increased absences, and I'm going to talk just a bit about that, but that's where part of our scramble has been, is just the number of staff members that we've not been able to fill all of the substitute positions. The ones that we're focused on filling are our classroom teachers, but I will say across the board, we have both classified positions are open, and that often means a van driver or the truck driver for lunches. And so while the focus has been on filling the classroom positions, it really does make an impact when we're missing important members of our team. I do want to give a shout out. Like, I just have tremendous gratitude for everyone who's been involved in keeping our schools open. And that is for families that are working so very hard if they, if their child has symptoms and keeping them home and trying to do the right thing and what's being asked of them, to, some people that may not have gotten the shout out is, retired teacher who has picked up almost every opening at Cabrillo School, or the job share teachers. Ocean Shore rarely has a job unfilled, and that's because there are a lot of job share partners, and they're taking not only their partners, but they're also filling in for other people. And so where Ocean Shore is maybe not seeing the same level of staff openings, they're all covering for each other, and it's been part of the scramble. Others are our school offices have been just super leaders. We transitioned from a 10-day isolation into a 5-day, and that had every formula for chaos and the need for testing to come back. And we made it through with, relatively little chaos. And that was our school secretaries, our COVID health assistants, our school principals, our teachers, our classified staff. Like, this has been, as both President Sayers and President Ellsburn described, just an all-out effort to keep our schools open. And we're doing it, right? I'm really delighted that things are working. And I think, as I can speak for almost everyone else, is that we will be delighted to return to boring. That would be fantastic. Next slide, please. So just a couple of things. So an isolation happens if there's a positive case. And right now, the new guidance is a 5-day isolation, both students and staff. And it doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. But in order to return is a negative test on day 5, and then that individual can return to either school or the classroom on day 6. So that's the key to that. To the greatest degree, I actually had several parents say, how do you ever expect me to get back to school? Because we can't get tests at home. And number one, you do have the 4 tests that are coming from the government, but don't use those. Save those. We at our schools can provide rapid tests. And to the greatest degree, so for the return, it will most likely be a rapid test that we'll use to get back. And all of our schools can provide that. We are short a COVID health assistant we don't have one hired yet at Valamar, and we don't have one hired yet at Cabrillo. And so fortunately, Valamar is close proximity, so we're able to provide that, and Concentric has been there a lot recently. But with Cabrillo, Yolanda Pranza is often there, but prioritizing hiring for those positions is really important. So next slide, please. So in our updated guidance, one of the ways that you can tell that something is different is that it will have this triangle with the arrow in that. And so one of the biggest differences right here is around contact tracing. And again, that it's not individual or it's not specific to the family, that it's really thought about from a school perspective and from a classroom perspective. The other piece, next slide, please. The other thing is thinking about a close contact exposure. So what was happening prior to vacation, the winter holidays, was there was this long series of questions that had to be asked: vaccination, fully vaccinated, when did they get vaccinated? And so now, if we think about a close contact exposure, if it happens at school, that all students return to school, as long as the students are masked. And we do have a few classrooms where students cannot wear masks, and that's a different situation. But as long as everyone's masked, is that students can remain in school. There is no modified quarantine. They can continue to participate in after-school sports. The trick is that negative test taken 3 to 5 days. This is where, when available, we're going to rely on the pool testing, and the pool testing for two reasons. A rapid test would work in this situation, but if we think about a whole class, number one, it's just more efficient, it's quicker, it's less staff time and fewer rapid tests to do it using the pool testing. The parents would continue to monitor those symptoms for 14 days, but a student can return to school. A more challenging situation, and what we see a lot, is if a household family member tests positive. And if that's the case, that's where there is a different response for someone who is vaccinated versus unvaccinated. So if a student is unvaccinated and there's a household family member, it's nearly impossible with Omicron to avoid getting it in a household. You would have to have double masks and a very large house, and most young kids cannot separate from their family members for that. So the student who is unvaccinated would have to stay at home. If a student is vaccinated, they can return to school, again with that negative test 3 to 5 days after exposure. So we've tried to simplify those close contact exposures and put them all in one chart to simplify that. There are so many different iterations of this that if you have a specific question, a COVID health assistant would be a great person to ask. Yolanda Pranza is a great person to ask, but we can walk you through this. There is no straightforward anything. So, but this is about as simple as putting it all in place that we possibly could get. Next slide. So I wanted to go over just to have a sense, and I didn't spend any time collecting this data, but I just happened to have it, is that we looked at student absences in December of 2021. That was during distance learning, is under 2% of students were absent. A year later, probably close to 7% or 6% of students, and that was in December when we had very, very few cases. And then Barbara Smith just happened to run the data on January 14th. So that was the Friday before Martin Luther King weekend. So that's where we saw higher case counts, where Sunset Ridge had probably 20 the first week, and Ortega had at least 20 the next. And so that's where we saw so this is the number. It's not, those aren't actually, I'm sorry, that says student absences. It's actually student attendance. That would be terrible if 84% of the students were. So it really is students that were attending. At 3 of the schools, about 15% were absent, and a little bit higher at the others. And then just making a comparison of this year versus last year in terms of staff absences. So a year ago, there were 16 absences, 4 were filled, 2 were unfilled, and then because much of it was in distance learning, many of them did not need a sub. And then in January this year is that there were 29 absences. There were 16 filled positions, so that's even higher than the number of absences that we had last year. So we did fill 16 of those. We had 8 unfilled, including 2 classroom teaching positions. 1 was handled internally by Ingrid B. Lacey's staff, And then the other was me subbing in 4th grade for Miss Carter at Valamar. And there were 7 employees not needing a sub. So classroom teachers almost always need a sub, with the exception of when they're able to cover, either during prep time. At one point, Jared Katz took 2 3rd grade classes. And so you're just seeing us looking at what's in front of us and how we're going to solve that, and the spirit of cooperation and we can do this is really is amazing. And I'm very, very proud of Pacifica and very proud of the efforts that people are taking to keep kids number one in school and keep students and staff safe. So next slide, please. Just as an update for child nutrition is that ballpark, if you had to say, is that there probably were off about between 10 and 20% of meals. The Ortega Otters, their lunch and breakfast numbers seem to have been pretty high, which is a little surprising because of their absence. They have kind of a high level of absences. So I thought that was interesting. So I didn't spend much time putting data together. It was just using the data that was available. So at this point, that is the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
All right. I'll just go around the room to see if anyone has any questions. Trustee Villalobos.
I don't really have any questions. Thank you for putting together the presentation, and especially putting in the absences due to, probably COVID, because it's an eye opener. So thank you.
Trustee Burkini.
My only question is, do we know the percentage of students vaccinated so far?
We do not. And I think probably if we can get past this next surge, probably next week, we will start collecting. We'll start we've said, please hand in your vaccinations, and many have either emailed them or printed them, but we have not had a collective effort to collect that data. It is high in San Mateo County. It's the numbers escaping me. I know that Nancy McGee talks about that in terms of, but I just don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's probably 80% in the 12 and above group.
Great. Actually, and one other thing, just to clarify, on the second to last slide, it said December 2021 and then December 2022. I'm assuming it was 2020 and 2021, but I just wanted to clarify that.
So December. Oh yes, thank you. You're right. That is incorrect. I can fix that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Bordeaux.
No questions, but thank you for all the hard work and keeping everybody updated.
And Trustee Patel.
3 quick things. One, I'd love to commend the district on keeping up the dashboard. As I look at San Mateo County's website, many school districts are not publishing their dashboard anymore. And I think it's a great commitment to both transparency and securing health to all families and students. So commend the district on keeping up that data, although I know it's not easy. And then second, just a very quick note on page 2 or slide 2, there was a comment around the infection rate building immunity. And I just want to be cautious about that narrative. I don't think the CDC has endorsed a narrative around herd immunity because the COVID-19, it mutates so rapidly. So I think we should just, our goal, as you've described, is mitigation and slowing the spread. And that's kind of first and foremost. And then the third quick comment that I have, or question really, is around the school lunches, the kind of last slide that you presented. Do we need to submit forms to the state to make sure we get adequate funding for this program, or is that not a concern? Do students and parents need to fill out something to make sure we get all the funding we need for it?
So that's actually a great question. So in order to get the free lunches, people don't need to fill out the form, but it puts us at risk of actually undercounting our numbers of unduplicated students that would be considered socioeconomically disadvantaged. And I will tell you, we're at great risk. Like the number is, and I'll defer to Josie, I think it's 22%. And last that we looked, we had dipped just down there. So we should, as soon as we get out of this, put forward an effort to increase that. Josie, I'll let you answer that. You're muted.
Yes, those are correct. And just kind of to clarify, that equivalates to about $1.2 million for our district in what's called LCFF supplemental funds.
So if we don't get those supplemental funds, that's a loss right there. And so we will definitely do a drive. We do have on our website a place where parents can go and fill out that paperwork, but I think we probably need to make people aware of that. As the teacher, when I got to, somebody's crying because they don't have their lunch, what a joy to walk in and say, do you want pizza pocket or taco? Like, it was not, let's go through that whole process. But I think you're absolutely right, is that we run the risk of not documenting the need. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions?
Dr. Olson.
Any questions for you, Trustee Doggett?
No questions for me.
Okay, that was just simply informational.
Yes. So we're moving on to approval of the Pacifica School District calendar for the 2022-2023 school year. Goal is operations. Dr. Torres.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Olson. Tonight, it is recommended that the board approve the school calendar for the 2022-2023 school year. Some background. The attached draft calendar was created jointly by LSEA and the Pacifica School District. A meeting was held on December 1st, 2021 with LSEA to draft the calendar. During the drafting process of the calendar, we used Jefferson Union High School District's 22-23 school calendar to support an alignment of common school breaks, as we know many of our families have children in both school districts. Collaboratively and with much consideration, we were able to draft a PSD school calendar 22-23 with the following common breaks with Jefferson Union High School District: Thanksgiving recess, winter recess, President's Week, and spring recess. Starting and end dates are different than the Jefferson Union High School District. For school year 22-23, our start date will be Wednesday, August 17, 2022, and our end date will be Friday, June 9th, 2023. Input on CSEA holidays was provided through email correspondence with CSEA union representatives. All parties are satisfied that the proposed calendar is suitable for students, their families, and staff.
Thank you, Dr. Torres. Are there any questions regarding the Pacifica School District calendar for the 2022-2023 school year? And I'll go around the room. Trustee Patel.
No question.
I see you shaking your head, so I'm just going to keep going. Trustee Brocchini. Trustee Villalobos. Oh, okay. Trustee Villalobos. I thought that was.
No questions. I just want to thank Carla and LSCA for coming up with a solution for our families. We were getting some emails and texts, or not texts, but emails. Thank you.
And Trustee Bradal.
No questions. I'm glad all the major breaks align this year.
All right, Barbara, will you take the roll call vote to approve? Oh, actually, sorry. Do we have a motion to approve the Pacifica School District calendar for the 2022-2023 school year?
I'll motion to approve. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And now, Barbara, can you take the roll call, please?
Sure. Trustee Bradal?
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini?
Yes.
Trustee Doggett?
Yes.
Trustee Patel,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, CSEA and LSEA Memorandum of Understanding Agreements. This goal is operations. Dr. Torres.
This is an informational memorandum to the Pacifica School District Board of Trustees regarding the most recent memorandum of understanding agreements made between the Pacifica School District and the Laguna Salada Employee Association and the California School Employee Association. During the month of December 2021, the Pacifica School District met with both LSEA and CSEA on separate days to negotiate. The following MOUs were agreed upon. Memorandum of Understanding between Pacifica School District and the Laguna Salada Education Association regarding return to instruction for the 2021-2022 school year, agreed on December 13th. Memorandum of Understanding between the Pacifica School District and the California School Employees Association and its Chapter 128, implementation of the Juneteenth holiday, agreed on December 10th, 21. Memorandum of Understanding between the Pacifica School District and the California School Employees Association and its Chapter 128 on California minimum wage, also agreed on December 10th, 21. And Memorandum of Understanding between the Pacifica School District and the California School Employee Association and its Chapter 128, participation in the Classified School Employees Summer Assistance Program. That was agreed on December 17th, 2021.
I will quickly go around the room and see if there are any questions regarding this informational agenda item. I will start with Trustee Burkini. You have any questions?
No questions. I just want to say thank you, though, for all the hard work that went into this.
Trustee Villalobos.
No questions. Same thing that Linda said. Thank you.
Trustee Bradal.
No questions, but thank you.
And Trustee Patel.
No questions and ditto.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Torres. All right, where are we? School field review goal operations. Josie.
There are several people that are interested in speaking on this, but I would propose that we present and then we have members of the public speak, and then we have board discussion.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Josie?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, trustees, for bringing this item forward. I know there was a strong interest and support to provide improvements for our students, and we look forward to working collaboratively with all groups. Thank you, Will, for bringing the presentation up. If you could go ahead and move forward. Okay, first we wanted to give you some information on revenues that we've generated from field use. And it's been really difficult these past few years. I don't feel like we have strong data for the 19, 20, and even the 18 shut everything down during COVID. But we have laid it out for you by site. You can see Cabrillo Field has had some strong use this year, just through November. And we've charged just over $6,500 of facility use fees. This is just for fields, by the way. Ingrid B. Lacey, just over 3,000, Odstad over 5,000, and Ortega under 3,000. And those are the 4 schools that generate facility use revenues. The others don't really have outside users on their campuses. If you can go ahead and move forward, Will. This next slide reflects the annual cost of our fields. And just to clarify, this is more than just the fields. Our 2 ground staff do mow the grass and tend to the fields, but they also tend to all of the other landscape in front of the school. When you look at the school frontage areas and the back areas, there is a lot on these 2 ground staff. And as Dr. Olson mentioned earlier, we have experienced a lot of employee absences, and just since we've been back in January, we've had absences, and we are looking at hiring the outside contracted company to help us catch up on mowing in the next week or so. So you can see the cost for 2 years. The 2 ground staff, the vehicles, equipment, and supplies. Go for abatement is one of the big items, and we've really struggled in this area. The techniques we've used as far as trapping and haven't really worked, and so we've recently moved to a higher level of fumigation, and you can see an increased cost there, and it takes time for that to start working. So we really haven't seen anything yet, but we're hopeful that it'll help. Contracted services, it fluctuates from year to year. It's going to go up quite a bit this year as we contract out for more services to kind of catch up on some of the costs with mowing and upkeep. And then water, of course, water is a very expensive item. In Pacifica, the rates are always going up, and it's about $112,000 this year. So the total costs we're looking at are over $300,000, probably pushing $350,000 for this school year. And this does not include all of the sites. It doesn't include Lindemar. And for most of our fields, we do have separate water meters, so it's easy to ascertain the cost. There's a couple of the schools that we extrapolated the figures based on the information we had from the other school sites. And if you can go ahead and please move forward, Will. So the current condition of our fields, we mentioned we have 2 ground staff. They have 9 sites to maintain. That's a lot of acreage, a lot of areas to maintain for the 2 people. The current work really is just very basic work. It's regular mowing, weed abatement, clearing heavy brush, and filling gopher holes. They don't have much capacity to do more than that, and thus we've contracted out for other services as we can. Gopher abatement, we have started recently in the last 2 years contracting out for tick abatement. We have a good partnership with the San Mateo County Vector Control, and so they let us know when it's high tick season and when we should get out there and clear the brush. And they also let us know what areas need to be cleared. We also have a need for contracting services for track maintenance. We don't currently have the capacity or the equipment to properly maintain tracks in a safe condition for sports. And Ingrid B. Lacey is probably the highest used track. And that was, you'll see later that track was recently upgraded. Again, it's really difficult to maintain the fields with 2 employees. Fields for sports, they do require a high level of maintenance above the capacity that we currently have. I know there's a specific height for playing sports in different kinds of sports like soccer or baseball. There's infield that needs to be maintained. There's benches and fencing and backstops, and I'm sure there's a lot more that we didn't list right here. So you can go ahead, Will. Thank you. So now I'll kind of go through each site, and this is really just a current, most up-to-date information. There's been other work done in previous years, but I'm just listing the most recent information. This is a picture of the Cabrillo Field, and it really looks good. Because the Pacifica Girls Softball League really stepped up this year. I mean, they do work every year. They've always helped us with this field, but they made a lot of improvements recently with irrigation upgrades. And that was one area that was really suffering, is the irrigation up at that field. They spent about $10,000 so far this year, but they have goals for 2022, which is still this year, upgrades of another $31,000, and the hope to build batting cages for $21,000. And they are very interested in maintaining this relationship with the school district and hopefully entering into a maintenance, an agreement, an MOU with the school district where we can share some of the maintenance, and in return, they would be waived some of the fees. So you can go ahead and move forward. Ocean Shore Field. This is a project that was recently done. They recently redid the field. It really does look beautiful there. It's bright green. The regrading and hydro sealing was completed in the fall. And fortunately, we were able to use some of the federal COVID funding to get back to in-person instruction and have areas for the kids to play. And part of the reason for the rush on this project is we didn't have a play structure. for the students. And so we focused our efforts on upgrading this field. The field is really only used by our school community right now and PTO sponsored vendors. There are no fees collected at this school site that would offset any of the ongoing maintenance costs. And if you could go ahead and go forward. So as I mentioned, the IBL track and field was recently redone by a contractor. This is one picture. It's not the best picture, but it's the only one I had right now. And that was just under $25,000, again, with COVID funds. It's an estimate for the field will be determined. Right now, we just did the track, but definitely we need to look at the field itself. This is a high-use school campus track and field. We have a full middle school program there. And in addition, they have the Boys and Girls Club and some of the outside youth soccer. And they used to have baseball there, but I don't know if they have recently. But it is a very high-use field. The recent estimate that our facilities department received for just the backstop is $86,000 to replace. And so far, that's just one bid that they have received. And please go ahead and move forward. Okay, Ortega Fields. Ortega is another site that is a high community use area. If you're familiar with the site, we have what's called Ortega 1, which would be on the west side of the field. It's a huge open area, and they label them Ortega 1 and 2, and it's used by all year long by baseball and soccer, regular league and tournament league. The Little League maintains the backstops, the dugouts, and they assist with the irrigation and some of the fencing. And Ortega 1, if you look at our facilities master plan, is one of the community prioritized projects in the plan to redo that entire field. And it's about a $4 million cost, and that project would start in the summer of 2023. The other area of Ortega on the east side is maintained by the Pacifica American Little League. And this is a very long-standing agreement. It renews, I think it's every 5 to 10 years, and they have completely maintained that field. And the current agreement expires in September 2023. So we'll be talking to them about the hopes to renew that contract. They've done an excellent job of maintaining that area. And then go ahead and move forward. So Valleymar Field is a little bit of a smaller field, I think, than Ortega. And there really isn't any school community use. I know many years ago, there was the little Pee-wee soccer used to go on that field, but I haven't seen community use in many years. It's really the school community that uses that field. And the field is not in good condition right now. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We received one estimate for hydro seed grade and regrading the track of just under $64,000. It wasn't one of the priorities in the facility master plan. We have some other projects being done at that school site, even coming up this summer. So we currently don't have a funding source for this, for the track and the field to be redone. Go ahead and move forward. Sunset Ridge, again, it's all used by school community. There really aren't any groups that rent the field out. The field is a really big field. It's a beautiful landscape. It needs a lot of work to bring it up to a good condition for our students to be able to play sports and have PE. We really haven't put any funding into that field at this time. And there are other projects that have taken priority in the facilities master plan. We'll be doing some parking lot work this summer and some other projects at Sunset Ridge. So go ahead and move forward. Odstad Fields has been a community use field for many, many years. That school has been closed, I think, over 10 years now. And the board had left those fields open for the community use. The soccer is the highest user of that field. There's AYSO, and then there's also some sports club soccer teams that have used those fields. And the teams have really been worked well with the district as far as trying to, upgrade and maintain the field. It's a huge job for volunteers to be able to maintain that year round. We also spend a lot on the water for that field, and we have no current students at that site. One of the things we're looking forward to is our workforce housing, because once that project is upgraded, we'll hope to at least do some work at the fields and maintain those fields for the public. And we don't have a date right now of when the workforce housing will start. We will get that information for you as far as whether or not the field will be available during that time. So go ahead. I think we have one more. The Lindemar Field, we have the garden and the 4-H. The field is not really that large, and it hasn't been used in many, many years, but the Pacifica Girls Softball League has recently expressed an interest in making improvements to the field. They're looking at spending $6,000 and to start utilizing that field for the girls softball. One of the positives this year, as we heard, is that the girls softball has had a huge increase in participation. And I know that's always been a sports league that has struggled with where to play and participation. So it was really good to hear that they had a great season this past year, and they also increased their participation. So go ahead and move forward. So at the request of one of our trustees, they asked, what other items are there to consider? And I know Dr. Olson also mentioned our stakeholders group, which is meeting to talk about finances of the district. So here we tried to list just some of the other facilities items to consider. It's ongoing, and you see them every board meeting every month. You see the costs for these types of unanticipated deferred maintenance projects. The biggest one we're planning right now is Cabrillo. We've had repetitive plumbing issues at Cabrillo, and we're hoping to complete that plumbing work in the spring, and it's going to be about $50,000 to $60,000 to complete that project. We have ongoing roofing, fencing. Our portables really are at the end of their life. We had to close one of the portables at Cabrillo, and we are going to have to look at how can we replace some of those aged portables. And then we always have ongoing things that come up at sites that either weren't thought of during the facility master plan, or things just come up as far as, with COVID, we've had some new things come up that we needed to address as far as outdoor seating. So we always have continual site wish lists that come up in the facilities as well. So revenue or expenditure offsets, you can see we don't have a lot of facility use fees. We haven't updated those fees in many, many years. Those are our kids that are using the fields after school in their sports activities. So that would be one area to look at. I don't think that we would gain a lot of revenue from increasing fees. It would really just be passing on the fee increase to our families. But we could look at that. Agreements with sports groups like the Pacifica American Little League have gone really well. Now the Pacifica Girls Softball League wants to reinstate an agreement with the district, and I think that would be a very strong partnership. We can talk to some of the other groups as well. And then an interesting thing that just came up in conversations was the city of Pacifica was talking about a transit on occupancy fee. So that would be when people come to Pacifica and stay in the hotels. I don't know if you've ever seen on your bill, sometimes there's an occupancy fee or tax. If the city of Pacifica instituted that, some of that revenue could be generated to help with the fields for, public, PB&R, because there isn't really a lot of fields in Pacifica. So those are just some ideas. I know that we could think of a lot more. Right now, we're just looking at maybe what are the small projects that we can do to upgrade the fields at this time. And I think if you can go ahead, Will, that's it. Yeah. So right now, if we can open it up for the board to discuss and maybe get direction for staff. Or did you want to
take comments before we discuss, or did you all want? Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up the people wishing to address the board on this item.
Okay, Dr. Torres is going to help. She's going to help bring the speakers.
Okay, and just because we are little wishy on our virtual meetings, so we're just going to do our best to not make any mistakes. Michelle Gray's going to start us off. There'll be a this beautiful 3-minute timer, and then at the end of the timer that we would be muting the individuals that would go. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like we have about 5 or 6 speakers tonight. So Michelle Gray, we are going to, anybody see Michelle Gray? There she is.
I am here.
All right.
Can you hear me?
You got it.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So my name is Michelle Gray, and I have kids at Valimar and IBL. I've been here talking about the fields for quite some time and appreciate that this has finally made it to the agenda. So thank you. With that being said, I hope everyone is well and safe considering what's going on in the world right now. And thank you, Josie, for your presentation. I would like to see what can happen, though, as far as, these are things that we wish to improve. Like, I'd love a wish list from Pacifica School District. We have our wish list, of course, the community. And I do know from the field fees, those are much higher than what was presented. So I think the numbers maybe were a little bit off as far as what you have received versus what you should have received. So we should really kind of keep an eye on that. I know everyone, Pacifica School District, schools, communities is unhappy with the status of the fields and that the current staffing levels 2 people and the funding seems inadequate to make the necessary improvements. There's no way staff can keep up with the fields as it is with their really poor shape. I, for one, am tired of my kids not being able to go out on the field during school for exercise. And quite frankly, really being worried about them when they're out there playing sports, playing soccer on some of these fields. It's just in really bad shape. I have to say, and this is really just sort of a me thing, I'm very tired of the excuses on why things can't improve, right? There's excuses, there's fingers being pointed on all sides. And it's just not working. And this is kind of where we end up. So this is a community issue for us. It's not a soccer issue. It's not a baseball or a softball issue. Although I am glad we're starting to, get a lot of these kids back out there in the field, considering what's going on right now. I do have worries about the changes that have already been approved at Oddstead and Ortega. There's no way the current staffing and budget would ever be able to really maintain those upgrades. So they're not able to keep up with the fields as they are now. And when you're adding in this awesome turf at Ortega and things down the road at Oddstead, there's no way they're going to be able to keep up with them. So what do we need to do, right? We really need to focus on what are some of the short-term activities to help these fields. There are some things that are much easier for us to do. And then there's longer term things we can think of, including maybe working with the city on what are they doing with their fields, maybe this new tax coming in. But a lot of that is 5-10 years down the road. And so we have to focus on it, but it's not a priority. It is great to see that there's already nice collaborations with some of these organizations, right? PAL doing a tremendous job maintaining their field. I think PNLL and obviously the Softball League and AYSO stepping up. We really need those to continue, and we need those to be much stronger collaborations. We have so many people that are willing to step up, whether or not their kids are playing sports. I want my kids at Valimar to get out on the field, and I want.
Okay, just FYI, we have a timer that's displayed on the screen so that you don't get cut off. Please pay attention so that you can get your full 3 minutes in. Dr. Olson, do you want to go?
Okay, sorry. The next speaker is Charlotte Allen.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. I have been a parent in this district for over a decade. It's the same situation year after year, no matter who the district staff, what trustees are voted in or appointed, no matter what's happening with our economy. There's always a laundry list of needs and never enough money. The thing is, we get it. We've heard it 1,000 times. Yet year after year, nothing seems to change. In a business, if facing a deficit, change must occur to generate income, keep things running smoothly. Board of Trustees, Superintendent Olson, Ms. Peterson, this is your fiduciary obligation. Yet we still have abandoned properties owned by the district simply collecting dust. I cannot recall a time I have seen a plan, a sustaining plan to generate income and maintain, or in an ideal business, increase funding. What I have seen from this district is piecing things together, one issue at a time. Reliance on PTOs to fund the things once funded by the district, and a real lack of partnership. So with this concern, with the concern of hundreds in our district, that our fields are atrocious, and more importantly, a danger to the very kids we serve, I ask that you address these issues now and with the partnership of anyone and everyone that can help. As a soccer mom, baseball mom, PTO board member, and community volunteer, I ask that you fulfill your fiduciary obligation and one, hire the appropriate professionals to investigate the fields and determine what each property needs to be safe for students and staff to utilize. 2, prepare a plan and ask of PTO and community partners to help reach the goals outlined by the professionals. And 3, prepare a maintenance plan that keeps district property in good and safe conditions for the foreseeable future. Please stop piecing things together. Wasting water, and $100,000 worth at that, wasting water to saturate only 1 or 2 spots that then sits in a soupy brew is a strain on finances and frankly not helping the problem at hand. Mowing lawns is one thing, but when mowing over a wholly ankle-deep Swiss cheese of a field, it combats one issue and leaves a whole heap of chaos untouched. These are Band-Aids at best. Investigate, plan, and partner. That's what I am asking of you. Show us, prove to us that if our PTOs and community organizations partner with you, that you will allow us to help, you will offer a real long-term plan, and that we can keep that plan going through transparency and team efforts. Investigate, plan, partner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Torres, the next speaker is Jen Kinder.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Hi, my name is Jen Kinder, and thank you for the presentation on the fields of Pacifica. I'm specifically commenting as an Ortega school parent. First, I'd like to thank you that the tick maintenance has been improved over the past couple of years. There remains a serious issue, though, with the fields around the holes, long grass, and poor drainage that are adding up to injuries. Many families are willing to assist PSD in partnership to help the fields so they are safer for PE, recess, and extracurricular activities. The outside partnerships seem to really benefit all parties, especially the kids and all those that use the fields. Perhaps we can have more of that. It seems like a win-win, especially for now until the fields are redone, meaning for 2022 through spring 2023. There's a large soccer community here in Pacifica, both club soccer and rec leagues. As we know, funds are always challenging to come by. We offer partnership to help with the items that would be less costly, but make the field safe. I want to ensure the board that the community is seeking to partner and assist and work together in a positive manner. The main items are fill the holes and suggest a better watering and cutting grass schedule. I can say from fall semester, it was maybe cut about 2 times. If you notice the field behind Ortega 1, as of this past Monday, it is ankle high in water, and this is weeks after the rain. So drainage is a serious issue and is limiting my kids from recess and PE, which are key for overall health, both mental and physical, especially during COVID. These kids need a safe place to work their steam off and their energy so that they can then focus in class and do their academics. We want to make the field safe for now and 2022, the rest of it, and then 2023 spring. I also wanted to add that the Odstead field was a great site until it stopped being watered. I know volunteers are willing to partner to regain that field and have been wondering why it has been left to be incredibly dried out, specifically this past fall for the past 2 to 3 years. And it is unsafe with kids playing on it. It's really a concussion risk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kelly T.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Oh, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for getting this on the agenda. It's really great to see the plans and just getting a better understanding of what's going on with each school. So my comment is, now that we know, it seems like there was somewhat an audit done and that you guys had contractors come out, but only one bid was made across these, across all the different fields. I'm wondering, is there going to be a next step to this, a follow-up to this meeting? Are you guys going to take it a step further to get additional quotes and really work together? And it sounds like, you know, you have all these sports leagues, the PTOs, the community. Everyone wants to help and partner with the Pacifica School District. Can we take this to the next step and understand and work together how we can raise this money? And it doesn't, we understand it's not an easy fix. Money is hard to come by, and we can help raise that money. And you guys mentioned, you know, I noticed that one of the schools for Valimar, which I'm a parent of students over at Valimar, that there's no funding source. Is that, there's no funding source? Is that from this year? Is there any, do you foresee any funding sources coming up in the next couple of years? I would love to better understand that, because I think that's something that's crucial to know in terms of longer term plans. Is this something feasible that we can all work together in a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year plan? How can we break this out into phases? We know and we understand not all the fields can be all fixed at once, but would love to see this phased out plan where the community can come together with the Pacifica School District to work together to get these fields fixed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tim Berry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Berry. I am the current president of Pacific American Little League. First of all, thank you, Board of Trustees and district staff, for taking this on. Obviously, a issue that is very passionate for the community members of this area. I have been on the PAL board for 6 years now, 3 years as president. We have truly enjoyed the relationship that we've had with the district on our partnerships for the field. I have 3 kids at Cabrillo. My background is with Parks and Rec and with school districts and facility maintenance, so I know how hard it is. It takes work on both sides. It takes work from both the district and the nonprofit organizations who are doing the time in. You have passionate people who want to see these fields improved. You have staff who want to see these fields improved. I urge you to find a way to make this work for these community groups to give back to the district to help improve these fields so they're safe for everyone to play on, for everyone from staff who want to use it for PE or for classes to use sports or after school. And I appreciate your time, and I hope that we find a partnership for all these groups in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last speaker for Fields.
So I want to just ask my question since I have one, and then I'll go around the room. Josie, just looking at the numbers on the fields, and we're not even, bringing in any kind of revenue that's even close to 5% of the actual needs to maintain the field. I'm curious, are we charging a fair but competitive price for the use of the fields, or are we just undercharging, or is it more like we're allowing use of the fields for a very, very low price? I'm just curious.
So that's a very good question. And we have not done a study on facilities use or fields use in many, many years. That's one area that we could do some comparisons with other school districts, and we could look at our fee structure. And there is a board policy on facilities use. We could incorporate that with the board policy and bring back some recommendations to the board.
I'd like to see that. I'm really curious to see, are we competitive in what we're charging to use the fields? Because I'm happy that the community wants to use the fields and wants to partner with us, but I also see this as, are we actually, charging what we should be? Because, we want to maintain these fields and keep them up so that, they're useful. All right, I will go around the trustees. I'll start with Trustee Patel because I see you first. You have any questions, comments?
Yeah, just a question and then a comment. So the question is, how are facilities funded generally? Does it come from just the general fund revenues that we get?
So that's a very good question. In the history, the state used to provide what's called deferred maintenance funding, and they would give the district, it was approximately $120,000 for facilities deferred maintenance, and then the district was required to match that. So that was about $240,000 that was going into deferred maintenance from the state. That was taken away with the LCFF funding formula, because that's when the state said, okay, this is all local funding now. It's up to the districts themselves to allocate their local control funding based on, you know, what their programs are and their needs are. And so, and of course, Pacifica has always struggled with deficit spending. So the state no longer gave the 120, the district was no longer required to give 120,000. And so the district has been making a small contribution to deferred maintenance, which has been not adequate when you see the costs we've been spending on plumbing and all of those other facility issues. It's been about $40,000 a year, which is clearly inadequate. The other funding source would be with the facilities master plan. You could apply for state match funds, which, you know, there's a long line for the state matching funds, but we are in the process of doing that with King Consulting is assisting us to match funds with our facility master plan. Other than that, it's charging users for the use of facilities. And that's just one area that, as Dr. Kai mentioned, we should look at how much we're charging. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I guess the overall question was looking at, we get general fund, you know, revenues that we use for instruction, for all of these other pieces. And so I just want to make sure that this isn't some separate fund that we can only use for facilities, but we're actually reallocating in many cases from that general bucket. Because I think in my mind, the longer term question, certainly we're hearing a lot of feedback around improvements needed in the field and that being a priority, but also looking at the kind of longer term priorities that this district needs to take and balancing all of those things. The only comment that I wanted to make there is I really did like the idea of a wish list. As somebody that's new on the board, I actually get confused with some of these presentations around like which field are we talking about with improvements. You know, I hear that Ortega, there's a near-term need, there's a long-term plan that the district has set out, but a near-term need, IBL fields. Those are the two that I've been able to suss out in terms of areas of need, but I can't quite figure out which fields and what the issues are very clearly. So I'd love to here's sort of the prioritized list from the community. And then I agree with you, Josie, on the use fees. It feels like shifting, you know, from one party to the parent. Sometimes that can be I don't know, not necessarily the best way. I love the potential partnership with the city of Pacifica if that goes forward, and really looking at other ways we can partner with the city, either to reduce costs. Somebody mentioned like bidding processes, if there's ways to get more competitive bids by leveraging city expertise or anything like that. So reducing cost and then potentially leveraging new revenue funds or revenue sources from the city. Thanks, that's it.
I'm not sure if you heard me, but Trustee Burkini, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do. I'm glad, first of all, thank you for putting this together. I went back and looked in my research of when I started asking Jody C. Peterson about fields, and it was back in 2012. So I'm glad to finally see this on the calendar, and maybe we can start to think about some real world solutions to some of these problems. Fee increases, I just want to mention that's something we should probably attend to, because I know the state of California has put a cap on how much we can increase rent. I'm not sure if that applies to school districts, but if it does, we're, far behind trying to catch up on as far as fee structure. So we might look into that. I do have a question about the Ocean Shore Field. First of all, I appreciate that the effort was put in to get in that field, but what I'm concerned about is the reason why it was put in is for students to play on it. And at this point, there's still gates around that field and piles of mulch sitting next to it. So I guess for Ocean Shore community, when can we expect that to actually be finished and able to be played on?
I will get a date for you. I know that it takes time for the seeds to for the strength of the field to withstand the use. And so let me get that information for you, and I can get back to you on when it'll be completely open.
Okay, thank you. My other question is, do we have any other competitive sports that are interested in our fields? Because we still do have a few fields that are free. I know in the past there's been a few other interested organizations. Have we had any interest recently?
They haven't asked about partnerships, but there are competitive sports leagues. There's the regular Little League and the regular soccer league, and then you have the more competitive sports leagues. And I know we did have a soccer group using Oddstad. I can look at the facilities used to see who has been using it and look and see. I know that we have had interest from the girls softball to enter into a new agreement. I think that the soccer group would be interested in entering into a new agreement. And of course, the Pacifica American Little League has always expressed an interest in these agreements. I don't know of other groups at this time, but we can look.
Okay.
I think that's a little bit of a chicken or an egg kind of situation, is that if your fields aren't in great shape, people don't want to use your fields. And so I think by improving them, there probably would be more interest.
Thank you. And then let's see, Oddstad. So we aren't building yet over there. And I'm just wondering if we can use that still, maybe for one more season, because hopefully in the next couple of years we'll be building, but currently we aren't. So I don't know, maybe we should consider still renting that to AYSO.
Yes, the field is open. The field was closed during COVID. It was fenced off and closed when we closed all of our play structures. I don't know if you remember, it was in the beginning of COVID. We shut everything down and we closed everything. The Oddstad field is open, and we didn't stop watering it. There's been some irrigation issues in that because it's an old field, an old school site. So there has been irrigation issues and leaks. And that's, I guess it gives the impression that we stopped watering, just to kind of clarify that. But it is open for use right now.
Okay. And then my last question is, if we're to take on a partnership with one of these clubs, who would be the primary at the Pacifica School District to manage that relationship?
That would be myself and the Director of Facilities Maintenance and Operations.
Okay. All right. All right. That's my questions for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Burdall.
I know it's been a problem for a long time, but the majority of the problems have come up the last couple of years. And I think part of that was being closed down for COVID and not having the schools being used in person, but also the drought. And I was just wondering, what does the state limit how much we can water? Are we going to have to, do a 40% cutback, things like that? I mean, to plan all this seeding and watering, when I know we've had a lot of snow the last month or so, but in planning, the North Coast County Water District has said they have certain cutbacks in place. Is that going to apply to us too, where we're going to hit a wall to how much we can water?
We have not received any formal notifications on water limitations for schools.
However, from an informal perspective, in our meeting with North Coast Water, they've already said that Pacifica does really well with water use, but yet there will be restrictions that will be on there. And we are obligated as citizens is to do our best to use the resources to the very, very best that we can. So we are expecting some reductions.
Would reductions like that, like if they said we had to cut back 25%, would it be per school, or do you know, or if it would be the district as a whole? In other words, could we concentrate on having 2 or 3 really nice fields, you know, in the meantime during the drought, and maybe having to let some of the others go a little more to be able to make that cutback?
I do believe it's district-wide. I don't think that it's per field.
Okay, that was my main question.
Okay, and Trustee Villalobos.
I just have a couple questions and a couple comments. My concern was the water use in a drought, and what Dr. Olson said. I'd also like to hear more in depth, like how PAL is so successful in keeping that area clean, and how much they actually put into it every year, and what their volunteerism numbers are. Like those little very important things. And then when would we find out about the partnership with the city and the hotel tax? Is there like somewhere in the near future where we could see an answer to that?
May I answer that one from the city? So they would have to choose to put something on the ballot as an additional tax, and that they would use it. Those are funds that are available to them, and they would have to agree to partnership with us. Where we would have a pretty considerable lift to do is in our current state, no one would come here and use our fields for a world-class soccer tournament. We're just not in that place. And so there'd have to be some substantial capital improvements on our fields to make them tournament ready. I mean, no one disagrees with that. So, you know, we may have that Ortega 1 field in 2 years that would be a artificial turf field. But I think, you know, the vision of that would be that we'd have 2 or 3 world-class fields so that you could hold a legitimate soccer tournament here. So that's really the part that we'd have to fill in that gap, and whether that be an additional bond or some like full-on community effort to get our playing fields up to tournament-ready standards.
And then, you know, it sounds like what I'm hearing from the community is they want to help. They, you know, want to raise money. They want to give suggestions, you know, but at this point, I do feel like it's a partnership with as many partners as we can get. So finding out what works and what doesn't. The gopher problem is terrible. I live right behind Ortega, and it took us 14 years to finally be rid of them in our front yard. We haven't even tackled the backyard. So I was just wondering if the gopher problem is at all of the schools, or is it just, it's at all?
Everywhere.
Okay. All right. And it does sound like we have, you know, a lot of promising directions to go, but I was just wondering about the fee increases too. Is if we're going to, you know, first we need to get them in shape, and then if we're going to have a fee increase, you know, I'd also like to see some kind of more funding towards the scholarship, so that it's still affordable to some of the families to have their, you know, kids in soccer, you know, because it's gonna trickle down, or baseball. And then is this something where an ad hoc committee might be helpful. And I know we're all, have a lot on our plate, every single one of us, parents, students, board members, superintendent. If this is something that would be doable in the near future. So those are my comments and questions.
I have just a few comments, if I may. Is it my turn? Yeah. Okay. So
Yes, go ahead.
I love the idea of the community response, and I think that that we will absolutely partner with all the folks that are interested. And I think we could both come up with what's our wish list, what's our immediate short term, what's our others. I think, to be transparent, we are understaffed in a way that our 2 groundskeepers are not enough. Our management of the fields is not enough. There are many things where you see our thin margins in Pacifica. And one of the things you'll hear me say this year and future years is that, to be transparent, in San Mateo County, we are the lowest revenue school district by $1,000 per student. So if we look at that as 3,000 students by $1,000, that's $300,000 that we could use in some way. So as Josie had described, it is LCFF money that every dollar that we use for one purpose is a dollar that we cannot use for another purpose. We recently asked parents questions on a panorama survey for some of the work that we're going to do in our priorities, our district priorities, and fields came up quite a bit in that priority list, and we'll certainly consider that. We have a member of one of the parent committee members, Jamie Warden, is AYSO leader, and so I would expect that will be a part of the discussion. But I think it's unrealistic to hope for much change unless there are more resources that are put toward this and more staffing resources. Certainly we will have the support of the community, and we can figure out how to best use any kind of volunteers. But I will say right now, as we are scrambling to cover classrooms and keep schools open, we need more resources that will go toward this. And I would just say, before we made decisions on one-time funding or COVID-related dollars, I think we should work through that priority committee and look at sustainable funding. I do think we can perhaps get our fees in order, but that's not going to make up for we asked the city today how many groundskeepers they have, and they have 4 maintenance workers that take care of. They have 19 parks, but 5 sports fields. So there's definitely a need for more human power to do that. So I don't have any easy answers, but we would invite any of the people that spoke today to meet with Josie and George once we get past Omicron and can kind of keep our gate and keep things moving. But I don't think, bringing on a full-on ad hoc committee is going to be that productive at this point. I think we need to think about some resources, and district resources, meaning people and time that we can put toward this.
Thank you, Dr. Olson. Can I just add some final comments?
Sure.
So based on what I heard, we are moving forward with the tick abatement. We are using an outside company for that. We're just waiting for the results from vector control. We are entering into a contract for mowing, hopefully in the next week or 2. I wasn't really aware that we still had a drainage issue at Ortega. I knew we had a big issue years ago. We had flooding in the office, and the city of Pacifica went underground and redid some of their drainage, because a lot of the water comes from city property up above, the houses up above. So I can ask our bond project manager and facility manager to look at that as they look at the plans for refurbishing the Ortega field and see if they can also look at the drainage. I am going to work on an agreement with the Pacifica Girls Softball League. They've just done such a fantastic job, and the others as well. And that's one agreement I think that, we could probably, even in the midst of COVID, could probably get to the board in the next 2 months. I think that's a reasonable time frame. And we will look at the facilities use. That might take us a little bit longer to do the study of what is reasonable facilities use. And there is a civic centers law that you, as far as Linda's comment about raising rents, you are limited to what you can charge as a school district. You're not supposed to charge more than your cost. You are able to recuperate your costs. And then in Laverne's comment, I will reach out to Pacifica American Little League for some data on how many hours and how do they get that work done at Pal Park. And I think hopefully I covered most of the comments and questions from the board. If not, I'm happy to answer questions. I know I have one to get back to Linda Brocchini. And if you have others, please let me know. And we'll just continue working on this and see what we can accomplish in the short term together. And then I'm happy to work with the groups as we can move forward with agreements with the various organizations. So thank you.
Thank you.
The next presentation is pretty detail-oriented, and I'm just wondering how the trustees are feeling. Would you like a 5-minute break before we go forward, or do you want to keep going?
So the next one is the bond project.
Bond project. How are you feeling?
Do we need a break? I'm okay, but I will look around.
Maybe a quick break?
5 minutes?
5 minutes, okay.
5 minutes. John, could you start the 5-minute timer for us?
Is back. So let's move on to the bond project updates. So Ms. Ming and Ms. Novak.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a Measure O bond update. Just let everyone know what's going on and what we've been doing, and also the upcoming tasks. Next slide. So to repair and improve local elementary schools, including student safety, campus security, fixing aging, leaking roofs, upgrading classrooms, labs, computer systems to support programs in science, math, technology, English, arts, acquiring and constructing school facilities. Pacifica School District issues 55 million in bonds at legal rates, raising an estimated roughly 3.5 million annually for approximately 33 years at projected rates of 3 cents per 100 of assessed valuation, with citizens oversight and all funds staying local. So that's kind of a background information, just refresh everyone's memory about Measure O bond. Next slide. So we passed 55 million by citizens of Pacifica with a 62% passing rate. And Series A of bond funding of 18 million were issued on 2018. And Series B of fund funding of 25 million was just issued last December. And these funds will support construction projects starting this summer and those in the pipeline for the next 2 years, including 2 major projects, Cabrillo's Gym and Ortega's new field. And those 2 projects alone would be somewhere around 11 or $12 million. And facilities master plan developed with staff and families, and on over 100 million of projects wish list, and we had to make some choices. So our current master plan is what those choices came down to. Next slide. So projects currently under contract, meaning either under contract or they're under construction. IBL campus-wide safety hardware and lock set replacement. Project is under final adjustment punch list and final acceptance stage. So with that, we replaced the entire campus of IBL with the district's the new safety hardware and the new district keying standards. So the goal is when all our sites are done, every one of the district leadership will have one master key that will access the entire site. And right now, everyone carries a lot of keys on their keyring. And the next project is the IBL gate replacement. So the current front gates, they don't have panet hardware, so it's a safety concern. So new gates will have panet hardware and installation is anticipated in February. Food service and the equipment replacement. Dishwashers for Ortega and Cabrillo have been installed in November. And we had new freezers for Ocean Shore, Valimar, IBL, and Ortega installed between October and November. We're still waiting for the installation for Sunset Ridge and Valimar, which is scheduled during the February break, the President's Week. Next slide. So currently we have projects still under design and agency approvals, and here is the status. Ocean Shore and IBL Phase 1 improvements has been approved by the Division of the State Architect. Sunset Ridge, Ortega, Valimar, and Cabrillo plan checks are complete, and architects are addressing the DSA comments. And we're targeting approval of all sites by end of January. We will review the cost estimates and identify bid alternates, items we ask the contractor to price separately in case the bid goes over budget. We'll also work with school sites to determine the priorities. So in case it goes over budget and we ask the school site, okay, which one is a priority and which one we can delay, and hopefully we get state funding to finish those projects. Next slide. And we have projects under bidding right now, and here's the status. So we have Ocean Shore outdoor improvements, including new play structure, is under bidding right now. We conducted pre-bid walkthrough on January 12th, and we have a bid opening date on February 3rd. And we have ordered the play structure back in November, due to the supply chains. The lead time is almost 6 months, so we ordered early, and the estimated delivery date is April 14th. And the bid sets the final completion acceptance date as August 16th and allow prep work for installation in March. And we were going to start installation, the site prep work earlier, but we talked to the school site, and due to the noise and the reduced play area and the lunch area, so the school decided to start the actual construction, basically having contractor on site mobilizing no earlier than May 1st. So the school asked us to do that, but everything will be completed and accepted by the district before the start of the fall semester. And we also have roof repair and replacement at Valimar, Sunset Ridge, Ortega, and Ocean Shore under bidding. And we did pre-bid walkthrough on January 6th, and bid opening will be on January 27th. Next slide. Oh, by the way, the roof replacement project will be done over the summer break, because when you replace the roof, there's noise, people walking on the roof, and there's also smell as well. So we have a total of 6 sites, and we need some bid packaging strategy. So how we package these sites. So our goal is there are approximately 8 to 9 weeks of time during the summer for construction. So time is extremely challenging, and we have 6 sites. So our goals are for time, minimize construction time and increase construction efficiency by packaging similar work together. And our second goal is cost. Minimize general contractor markup by directly contracting with specialty tree contractors for work with a scope of with a work scope large enough to justify, for example, carpet replacement. We have 3 sites with carpet replacement for the classrooms. Safety hardware and key replacement. We have 4 sites that will replace the entire campus with the new door hardware. And the third goal is warranty and quality control. And we want to achieve consistent quality and warranty under one direct source. Next slide. So in order to achieve those goals, we have the following is our strategy. First, we divided the work across 6 sites into interior work and outdoor improvements. For interior work, all of our sites have similar work, like a restroom remodel, air conditioning for the technology room, window shades, interior admin configuration, like at IBL and Sunset Ridge, additional electrical outlets, associated HVAC and fire alarm work. So we want to package those similar work together under one general contractor with a B license. And those are usually the contractors who contract for building, site work, everything. But we want, because of the time constraints, want them to focus just on the interior, similar work on the interior work. And also all of our 6 sites, each site, the scope of work is now big. So we don't want to get little contractors, coming out with low bid and they end up mess up and not able to finish on time. And then our students cannot come back to the classroom, so it'll become a mess. So we patch those small jobs with a bigger site, with a bigger scope of work, which is Valimar. It involves much larger scope of work, especially they have a D-wing addition and also has construction logistics during the school year. So we will work it out with the contractor. So we patch those projects together, and the Valimar will take longer to complete, which will have a separate schedule, and we'll fence off certain areas, and construction will be done during the school year. And we package all the outdoor improvements together because they're all similar, like Ortega, ADA parking lot improvements. Sunset Ridge also have ADA parking lot improvements. They all have site fencing. IBL have fencing. Ocean Shore has site fencing, and Cabrillo has daycare portable. At the back of portable, we have this area full of weeds, and so it's an unutilized area. We want to utilize it. So all these we package it and give it to a general contract holding a license. The A license contractor usually specialize in doing bridges, outdoor paving. So by directly contract with them, so it's good for the cost, and also all those work will be also completed by the summer end. Next slide. And we will also bid out safety hardware and key replacement for 4 of the sites in one package to obtain one hardware, the C28 license holder, which is a hardware contractor. So that's the same way we delivered IVL, which is a very good experience. Also, this will keep consistent quality and warranty. Valley-Mark, Cabrillo, and Ortega all requires carpet replacement for all the classrooms, and we'll hire one flooring contractor under the CMAS program directly for consistent quality and warranty across all the sites. And we will also write, in order to help with the schedule, we also write into the bid conditions that the contractor may perform some of the work during after hours. For example, the electrical and some fire alarm work that can be done during after hours between March and summer break. Next slide. State funding application status. So all these projects require notice of exemption for CEQA studies, and we have filed all of them, the 6 sites with the County of San Mateo. The Ocean Shore School Phase 1 improvement and Ortega improvements, those drawings have been approved by CDE, which is the California Department of Education. And our next step is when DSA approved all of the plans, and that's the time we'll be eligible to submit funding applications with the state to get in line. So at that time, we'll be submitting the paperwork with the help of King Consulting to get in line to get the funding. Next slide. Here's our upcoming facilities fund tasks this spring and the summer. So during February, we have a bidding and a job work for all the 6 sites. We'll conduct bid openings by end of February. And then we will be selecting a contractor and contracting with a contractor in March. I'll bring a contractor to actually a bunch of contractors on board in March. And we'll be bidding of the safety hardware and keying replacement for Valley-Mark, Cabrillo, Ortega, and Sunset Ridge. And we'll be installing the 5 new gates at IBL. And the new dishwasher installation for Valley-Mark and Sunset Ridge. We'll also be reviewing and negotiating contracts with architects for the Ortega Field, the Ocean Shore Phase 2, and Sunset Ridge Phase 2, which is the kitchen addition at Sunset Ridge and miscellaneous, like their canopy is fully rusting. So we're going to replace the canopy at the front of school. And we'll also be meeting with architects regarding Cabrillo Gym and review their preliminary design, cost information, and organize community meeting regarding gym location. We have neighbors concerned with the noise or view into your backyard. So we need to conduct those meetings. And we'll also determine, based on those meetings and feedback, we'll determine the final gym location. And at that time, we'll obtain a geotechnical report and proceed to the next level of the design. And we'll also be coordinating with King Consulting on state funding implications as at that time, all the DSA approval has been obtained. Next slide. In March, we will be entering into construction contracts for all six of our sites, and we'll start project submittal process. And this will also allow enough the material lead time, before they start actual construction, mobilizing on site during the summer. And the Ocean Shore Outdoor Project contract to mobilize on site. So when we prepared this presentation, it was planned for March to start Ocean Shore, but because of the school feedback, that date has been changed to May 1st. And we'll finalize scope and pricing for carpet replacement, which is we replaced with rubber tile. And we'll determine that with the floor contractor and also enter into contract. And we'll start design phases for the Ocean Shore Phase 2, Ortega Field, Sunset Ridge Phase 2, and continue the design for Cabrillo Gym. And we'll be arranging meetings probably into April or May to review with the school sites. And because we're doing construction and the classroom needs to be cleared of this content, if you have seen, a lot of stuff is in our classroom. So we need to clear some of the spaces in the construction zone for construction. So I need to issue an RFP to obtain a moving company to move classrooms contents within a day of all our 6 sites. And also coordinate with the school site, get them started thinking about the moving process. Next slide. April through May, we'll continue the design process for, our school sites and get the sites input. And we'll continue construction of Ocean Shore Play structure. Actually, it's starting of May is the Ocean Shore structure and miscellaneous outdoor improvement at Ocean Shore. And we'll continue a submittal and RFI process of all the modernization projects of our 6 sites. And in June 9th, we'll be starting moving contents in the construction area for all of our 6 sites. And construction will start for all 6 sites, and architects will start completing the drawings for the phase 2 projects and begin to submitting to agency for approval. Next slide. So that wraps up the major part of the architectural part of the bound project. So now I hand it over to Christy to give you the technology update.
Hi, thank you. This is Christy Novak, Coordinator of Instructional Technology, and I'm pleased to give you an update on the technology aspect of the Measure O bond. I was reminded when listening to Cece's portion that this time last year is when we started the RFP bid process and all of that work last year, January of 2021. And so to come back to you when we're really seeing all the work in action is exciting to be able to share with you. So first and foremost, how does this technology upgrade help our Pacifica School District students, staffs, and families? So as part of the wording that was mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, part of these funds were approved by the community of Pacifica to help support science, technology, education in the classroom. So STEAM-related activities was definitely one of those aspects of the learning. But in addition to that, other learning experiences that really do require more technology or online access. The other idea of being able to do this is it broadens the ability and diversity of the kinds of learning experiences you can do for your students in order to bring more equity to our students and bring them more experiences that will set them on a greater path of knowledge for high school, college, and career. So also, in addition to that, it is able to, on a technical side, just support more devices, give us more stronger security, which is paramount to keep up with today's standards, and also just to be able to better and effectively troubleshoot problems as they come up. Next slide, please. So what have we been doing? So as I mentioned, through this first half of the year, it was the RFP, it was the bid, it was the approval of the contract. Also, as Cece mentioned, for some of her projects, what we did is we packaged all of our technology work for one contractor to do. So that included doing cabling work for buildings, doing installing and programming hardware, and doing upgrades of that nature. So we have started the work and over the past, from the fall through COVID and through staff and also shortages related to just supplies, which is a very real thing. We have worked on Sunset Ridge and Ortega, and happy to say that they are pretty much complete. There's just a couple of things that need to be finished and put up. Sunset Ridge was a larger project because they are the other site in which many of our other sites are connected to throughout the city. So that's why I wanted to make sure we took care of them first. And then we've also been having a lot of cabling installations at the district office, Valimar, Ocean Shore, and Cabrillo. Upcoming work. So in 2 weeks, we are going to be doing a district office data center and firewall upgrade. And then after that, we are going to be shooting right into doing some work for Ocean Shore and finishing them up as far as cabling and some of the hardware installations that need to occur. And Cabrillo will also be completed. So really kind of they work in a flow where they'll put the cabling in at different schools at different times. And so they have more than one team doing something. And the flow really kind of helps to create an efficient use of time so we can get it done as quickly as possible. February, LMEC will be finishing up their work, and we'll be starting in Ingrid B. Lacey over February break. And then Valamar has been started and then off and on, but their final work will be farther out in March. And then sometime in spring, we're looking to complete Ingrid B. Lacey as well. So that would bring us to a completion of the first scope of work that we did put together in this package. What did happen during the conversations of putting this package together and talking with different stakeholders is that there was a decision to also, while they were doing the work and while they were adding the cabling, to go ahead and add cabling for to be able to have outdoor wireless access points. And so that gives, again, the ability for students to go outside with their teachers and engage in learning in the outdoors if technology was needed to be able to, say, do science experiences or be able to collect data, whatever it might be. So it just gives more access to all of our sites. So that will be a project that will occur after the original scope of work is completed. And again, that will be outside and it'll be not very much as far as the kind of work that needs to be done. And I think that is about it to share with you about it. I'm excited to see get the work done and for students and staff to be able to reap the benefits. Any questions for Cece or myself?
All right, I'm going to go around the room. Laverne, you're the first person I see, your first name I see. So do you have any comments or questions? You have to unmute.
I just want to thank Cece for putting this all together and updating us on the progress. It's really appreciated. I don't really have any questions. It just seems like everything's moving along despite the production timelines and such. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay. Trustee Patel, you're next.
It's not really a question, or I guess it's more of a comment. So again, I do appreciate all of this detail. It was great to read through it. And, you know, I guess the question comment is for the bid packaging strategy that you have around putting kind of the work together for one general contractor, for example, while that can have efficiencies, it can also potentially have the side effect of not receiving more competitive bids. And while there are efficiencies with going with one contractor, I just wanted to get any feedback on, you know, do we know that that's a more cost-effective mechanism versus getting competitive bids for the multiple projects?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I'll just give you one example. Recently, we put out the Ocean Shore project out to bid for, you know, every time when you bid out a project, you're basically bid out to one person who's doing the work. And we had 9 contractors showed up to the pre-job walk, was interested. And a similar thing happened when we bid out roof replacement project. There were 10 contractors showed up. So the competitiveness of the work has pretty much has nothing to do with you're looking for one contractor or 2 contractors, because think about if you want to hire 3 contractors, if you get 4 bids, you get the top 3. I mean, you're getting the bottom 3 lowest bid. We're getting the top 3 highest bid, right? So if you have a pool of, if you get a pool of 10 contractors, you're choosing one, you're actually getting the best bid. So by bidding out the project early, which is we're bidding out in January, and so that'll really help the contractors, getting this work down the line, and they show a lot of interest because they line up the work, toward the later of the year. Does that answer the question?
It does. Thank you. No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Burkini.
Yeah, first of all, again, Cece, thank you so much for all this work and keeping the bids competitive. One thing I just wanted to bring up that actually Mr. Allen brought up in an email we got yesterday, I think, was the equipment needed to maintain some of like the new field over at Ortega. And I just want to make sure that when we're installing the field that we're getting the right equipment to maintain it, so that we're not in a situation where we've just spent $40 million and then we don't maintain it the right way. So I just want to make sure we're putting that in with the package if possible, when you're getting bids. And so that was the only thing I wanted.
So right now, our plan is to put a synthetic turf. So it's not grass turf. So it doesn't require irrigation. It's not as high maintenance. It doesn't need to be mowed. So it's not as maintenance intensive as the regular turf.
Right, but I did a little research in the piece of equipment that you should.
But we do need, it does need some maintenance. George is the expert on that. We don't think our maintenance staff will have the capability to do that type of maintenance work because you require professionals to maintain those fields. So the plan of action will be come up with a plan, with a maintenance plan on the field, so this needs to be done this day, this needs to be done that day. So once everything is planned, just like the master plan, you just follow the steps, the field shouldn't, go into despair.
Right. Well, I did a little research and it doesn't, it takes work, but it doesn't take that much work. And what we're talking about is like a piece of equipment that's probably $10,000 to $20,000 to do that work. And so if we have to subcontract that out every time we need to do the work, that seems like it's a problem. And
I'm not sure our maintenance department is capable of doing that work. Right. I'm not sure. They have the skills. So, I'm not sure they have the skills to do that.
Well, then maybe we need to just maybe to the cabinet. That's again something we should be keeping on a radar because it will be an added expense. The overall expense will be less, but we don't want to, we want to do this right. So we should just make sure we're thinking of all the pieces.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I'll keep that. I'll keep that in mind. I'll talk to George. I'll tell George.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you hear me, Trustee Bradall?
No, I didn't hear you at all. Sorry. No, I didn't have any questions. Just thank you to Cece and to Christy for a great report, but no questions. Kai, you're muted.
I have no questions is what I said. So let's see. Next on the agenda is the audit report, acceptance of the 2020-2021 audit report. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Trustee Doggett. Tonight we are presenting the audit report for 2021, and I want to thank Trustee Patel for serving on the audit committee. And I also want to thank all of the employees and staff who actually worked through COVID to still do all of the audit compliance, and that includes all of the school secretaries at the school sites and all of the district office staff, the student services, human resources, and the business department, the technology department. There's a lot of work that goes into an audit, and all of our staff continued to work and go through all of the audit compliance issues, and there were no findings in our audit report. Tonight, thank you, Matthew, for attending the board meeting. I'm going to promote you to a panelist now so that you can present the audit report and answer any questions that the trustees have. So tonight we have Matthew Oyada here.
Hi, my name is Matthew. I'm with Siobhan and Associates. I'm a senior auditor with today I'm going to be briefly mentioning some key highlights from the audit. Thank you for having me here tonight, and thank you, Josie, for introducing me, and thank you and your team for the help throughout the audit. We greatly appreciate it, especially during these challenging times. So I'll just go over some briefly highlights from the financials. So the net position this year decreased by $960,000 to a total net position of minus $1.5 million. The changes in long-term debt, there was a decrease by $2.8 million. Changes in other post-employment liabilities increased by $1.1 million, and changes in pension liabilities increased by $2.37 million. This is only for the government-wide financials. Then we're going to go into the fund financials, which is more short-term for the districts. So these long-term debts, such as bonds, other post-employment liabilities, and pension liabilities, they don't have any immediate impact on the fund financials. It just increases the annual required contributions and principal payments. So talking about the governmental funds, they increased, or total governmental fund decreased by $1.1 million, but the general fund increased by $1.5 million. And this ending audit year, FY21, the fund balance for the general fund was $5.7 million. And the general fund met the reserve requirement and the recommended of 3% and having it at 9.8%. Again, this is a brief highlights from our audits. We had no exceptions in our opinions, no findings. We had no material weaknesses noted, no significant passes on adjustments, and no disagreements with management. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess we'll go around to see if anyone has any questions. We'll start with Trustee Bordeaux.
No questions.
Trustee Patel.
No questions, but great that there were no findings. I commend the business office for having good policies and procedures in place.
Trustee Burkini.
No questions.
And Trustee Villalobos.
No questions.
Right, this is our last agenda item, I believe, and it's the SARC report, School Accountability Report Card. Mr. Lucy?
I'm going to jump in on you and just give the public just a general shout out is that just so that everyone understands, while we are scrambling in Pacifica School District, you are seeing the state of California scramble. Every year, we're responsible for publishing this school accountability report card, and we have to do that by February 1st, which means we need to bring it to you in a timely manner. That data was just released by the state on Friday afternoon, making us scramble. And there is some data, some teacher data that will be added even after we submit these things. So this is just a scramble that we are trying to keep up with. And this was not a Pacifica specific problem. It's a state of California problem. Mr. Lucy, hit it.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I actually, I want to thank you for mentioning that, because that was something that I was going to stay ahead of time. But what I put in front of you is the recommendation for approval of the school accountability report cards for our Pacifica School District schools of Cabrillo, Ingram B. Lacey, Lindemar Educational Center, Ocean Shore, Ortega, Sunset Ridge, and Balamar. And yeah, the CDE did release that data to our partner that we work with, DocuTracking Services, to load that data on to the school accountability report cards on Friday. And there is one portion of that data that's still not released from the California Department of Education, but they will, once it is released, it will be put in within these school accountability report cards so that this can be submitted before February 1st of this year. So the school accountability report card is a state mandated document, and it's really its main purpose is for the public to be able to see the different school sites. A lot of realtors use it for, I guess, valuing properties and trying to bring community members into Pacifica or those areas where the school accountability report card is. But it's mostly for this accountability piece. We now have single plans for student achievement that also kind of do the same thing for that purpose. I did want to thank the administrators at all the school sites. I worked with them closely to get these accountability report cards done in a timely manner. We were kind of, it was kind of tight timeline here, especially with all the things that they were dealing with on site. So I do commend them for all the work and effort they put into getting these completed. And then I also want to thank the facilities department for submitting. There's one section that's called facilities inventory facilities inventory test that they go to each of the sites and they basically look at the physical facilities at those sites and rate how they are. That's part of the accountability report card. And so they also had to do that in a very timely manner. So I want to thank them for that piece. But I don't want to go over each and every one of them, but if you have any questions, if you have any questions about these, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, I will go around the room. Trustee Villalobos.
Thank you for doing these. There's a lot of information here. I didn't want to get too far into it, but I saw some similarities between the schools, and one of them was the absenteeism. And there were some that were quite high. And so I was just wondering, at the district level, at the site levels, what is the procedure and the plan when the children are absent?
I'll jump into that one and then maybe John can take us, is that we're working with a company called Everyday Labs. You may have heard that we are engaging with that. It is by law, we're required to notify people that are truant about the requirement to attend school. It's an incredibly challenging time to talk to people about attending school. And so there are reminder notices that are mailed out and little nudges. We probably will skip February's nudge. And then the March nudge is really around all COVID-related absences are excused. Your child has this number of absences. You call that out, is that this was an issue before the pandemic and it didn't get better during the pandemic.
Thank you, Dr. Olson. And then I just had one other comment that it's kind of been on the horizon. There's a group of students that seem to be falling way behind, and that's our Filipino group. And so I'm just curious what we can do in the district and then have it trickle down to the sites. Is there anything we can do to help that group?
You're muted, Will.
You're muted.
Sorry. I do want to tell you that much of what's in there and where this data is inclusive in our local control accountability plan too, and we are monitoring attendance in those areas. And along with what Dr. Olson mentioned about this what we are contracting out and the supports we're doing. There's school site based things that are happening at each of the school sites around attendance and around working with certain populations, but specifically just with students that do have attendance issues, and you can even say do have areas like within behavior suspensions, those type of things that are being done at the site. There's actions that are in place at the site. And I think that would be inclusive of those populations that have been kind of showing up or being highlighted by this data.
And I think I just want to remind everyone that the academic data that's in here is at least 2 years old and not really that relevant. So as we take the CASP, take it with a grain of salt, and be glad that we have another tool that's going to help us for a while.
Thank you. So my only other comment is that it's apparent, even if it is older information, that we still have to help certain groups of students.
Absolutely. That did not go away. That did not go away with the pandemic.
Trustee Brocchini?
No questions. Thank you.
Trustee Bradal?
No questions. Thank you for all the work that went into it.
And Trustee Patel?
Yeah, thank you so much for all of this work. So a couple of questions just so I understand where this goes. This goes to the state so that the state puts it in the master database that then becomes public view for anybody to look up districts, right? Okay. And then do the school administrators complete these forms? So when I see like the facilities ranking, that was done by the site administrator?
Well, the facilities part, that section was done actually through a tool that they use, which is a facilities inventory tool. I think I'm pronouncing the acronym wrong, but it's basically that they go around and they make sure they look at the roofs and they do all those types of stuff. And then they take notes about actions that need to occur to rectify certain areas and that type of thing. A lot of those fixes are within the facilities master plan and so on, but they do it per site so that it's public knowledge that these are areas that they're working on. Yeah, the principals or the site administrators, they actually look at those areas around textbooks, parent participation, those sections. The Williams, anything connected with the Williams Act, and facilities are done usually at a district level, and they're monitored and managed at that level. So.
And then my last question is, I noticed that there's missing information around teacher credential information, as well as teacher salaries to compare against the state, and just wondering.
Yeah, that was the one piece of information that the CDE has not released. We have submitted that data in other forms. There's a CONAP piece that we have to submit that, and there's the CBEDS report that we put in. So they have that data, but it has to be released from the CDE for us to import it into the accountability report card. So that's just the one piece. They said that by the end of January that they would have that in there. So the final document that will be submitted to CDE and will be posted on our website will be inclusive of that data, that information.
And that's true on the average salaries as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for all the hard work. We do need to vote on this. So do I have a motion to approve the SARC reports?
I'll make a motion to approve the SARC reports.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Barbara, can you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Bradal?
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini?
Yes.
Trustee Doggett?
Yes.
Trustee Patel?
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, in the keeping it interesting category is that we were supposed to approve the 2020-2021. We were supposed to take a vote on that and we just moved on. So Barbara caught that one before we ended the meeting. If there are any questions or do we have a motion to approve I just set
the audit report?
The audit report, yes.
Oh, my mistake. Do we have a motion to approve the audit report?
I'll make a motion to approve the audit report.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Barbara, can you take the roll call vote, please?
Sure. Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Burkini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
We're at future agenda items.
Okay, last item. I'm trying to share my screen. I don't know if I have enough bandwidth to get that going. We have a really busy February and March. So the items that we're going to discuss in February is that we've got the Measure O bond audit. In closed session, we'll start with comprehensive school safety plans. Those is where we would ask you to review your school. We will be scrambling with the principals the next 2 weeks around getting those done. And that has a March 1st deadline. And then, as you know, we're in the middle of a plandemic. They're starting to call it a plandemic, which is just multiple plans. And one of the requirements for the LCAP is called a supplement to the annual update. So kind of a midpoint check-in around the actions and services that we've gotten done or that we've completed, as well as any data that we might have available. Our data for iReady is most likely going to fall into the March category in terms of the deadline. So, and then 2 items that were requested by board members was a summer school discussion as well as a review of communication tools that are out there. So I will meet specifically with the trustees to ask the specific things that they want to discuss on those ends. I don't foresee us being able to wade into the manual maintenance. I remember in December, we had this great plan around how we were going to get to 155 policies. We were going to start with HR. Right now, HR is very busy with notifications, but the good news is that maybe by the time we meet in February, things will slow down and that we could get started after that. So if things slow down, we'll do some of those HR policies. I just don't see that happening. And then, as you know, March is always a very busy meeting. Are there any other topics that you would like to bring up?
I can't see everyone, but I see Trustee Burkini, comments, questions?
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos?
Everybody's mute button is very sticky at 9:45, isn't it?
Yes.
My screens are all wonky. So, no, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Burdall?
No questions.
And Trustee Patel?
No questions, thanks.
Great. So is there anything else? I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 9:47.
Good.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there so late. And
thank you. Good night.
Enjoy your
Good job on the virtual meeting.
Good night.
Yeah, good job, Barbara. Bye.